Hello and welcome to the reading of Chapter 6 and Chapter 7 of the book Owls in the Family by Farley Mowat. I hope that you have watched videos 1 through 5 and read chapters 1 through 5 with us. If you haven't, I hope you'll go back and do that. This is the reading of Chapter 6 and Chapter 7 of Owls in the Family. Before we read, there's a few words I would like to introduce you to that you'll hear in these chapters. You'll hear about the Bailey Brothers Circus. That's a group of traveling performers that go from place to place, charging people to come see a show with people and animals doing tricks. So you'll hear about the Bailey Brothers Circus. You'll hear someone mention a Zulu Warrior. And a Zulu Warrior is a person from Zulu land, which used to be an empire in what's now South Africa, right here in this green area of what is now South Africa. That used to be called Zulu land, and Zulu land was an empire in South Africa in the 1800s, and Zulu warriors were men who fought for their king. And here are some Zulu warriors. They dressed up in their native costumes of animal skins and animal furs, and they were like soldiers for their king, fighting where their king told them to. So there's Zulu warriors. That's a Zulu warrior from South Africa. And then the other words you'll hear are Carnegie Public Library. This is a picture of the actual Carnegie Public Library in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. There it is. I'm sure that you've seen other public libraries before, but a Carnegie Public Library is a library built with money donated by Andrew Carnegie. Pedigree calves are a young calf, a baby cow that is special because it had really good parents. So it has special genes that make it really healthy and good for what the person wants it for. A pedigree calf is a baby cow. You'll hear about Mounties, something very famous in Canada. The Canadian police that ride horses are the Royal Mounted Canadian Police, and for short they call them Mounties. So they're police that ride horses, and so you can see these police, I believe, are probably just riding in a parade, but they actually are also the police. You'll hear the term breeches tanned from here to Mexico, and that just means a spanking. Breeches is a slang word for pants, and here they are in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan up in Canada. Here's the country of Mexico down here, so they're saying you'd get a spanking that lasted so long you could drive all the way from Canada down to Mexico and you'd still be getting a spanking. You must have done something pretty bad if you're going to get your britches tanned from here to Mexico. So you're going to get a spanking. I believe that's all the words that we have. Yes, those are for the next chapter. So let's read about Mounties and getting your britches tanned from here to Mexico, the circus, and see what all that's about in Chapter 6 of Owls in the Family. On the day school closed for summer, the T. Eaton department store announced it was going to sponsor a pet parade 2 weeks later, and there were going to be prizes for the most interesting pets and the best displays. Bruce was the first of our gang to hear about it, and he came right over to my house to tell Murray and me. "Hey," said Bruce, after he had told us all what he knew, "with the animals we got, we could win a dozen prizes. What about it?" Murray and I didn't need much convincing. We spent the next couple of days planning what we'd do. First, we decided to hitch Mutt and Rex to my old express wagon. We could fix it up with colored cardboard and stuff, so it looked like a circus wagon. We planned to put an old fur muff on my mother's around Mutt's neck to make him look like a lion, and we were going to paint black stripes on Rex so he would look like a zebra. Then we decided to build a circus cage on the wagon and fill it with different kinds of gophers. Finally, we decided to have the two owls riding on top of the cage, all dressed up in doll's clothes. We had 2 weeks to get things ready, and we really worked. First, we built the circus cage. When we were finished, it looked like the real ones that used to come to Saskatoon with the Bailey Brothers Circus every summer. Ours wasn't as strong, though, because the sides were only cardboard, painted red and blue and yellow. And instead of iron bars, we used chicken wire to keep the gophers from getting out. When it was finished, we made it a hike out to the bluffs near the exhibition grounds, because that was a good place to find wood gophers. We caught 6 of them, and on the way home we snared about a dozen striped gophers that were living in a cut bank by the roadside. Together with the 30 ordinary gophers we already had, this added up to an awful lot of gophers, and there wasn't going to be room for all of them in one circus cage. Murray fixed that. "Why don't we make another cage out of my wagon?" he suggested. "Then we'd have twice as much chance to win first prize." It was a dandy idea, so we went ahead and built a second cage. Then we decided to put some of our white rats with the extra gophers in the second one to make it different. The day before the parade, which was on a Saturday, we had everything ready. I borrowed some doll clothes from Faith Honnigan, who lived on the next block. Murray had got some washable sign paint from his dad so he could paint the black stripes on Rex. We had found a set of real dog harnesses for Mutt, and we had made a second set for Rex, out of twine. The cage wagons were all finished and stored away in our garage so they wouldn't get wet if it rained. On Sunday morning, I didn't even wait to eat my breakfast before I rushed out to the garage. Murray was already there, but Bruce didn't come along for about an hour, and we were getting worried he might not make it at all. By the time he showed up, we had the gophers and the white rats all loaded, and I was trying to get the doll's clothes on the owls. Bruce came into the yard with a shoebox under his arm and a big grin on his face. "Hi-yi!" he shouted. "I guess we'll win the first prize, sure. Bet you can't guess what I have in this box." Murray and I couldn't guess. I shook the box a couple of times, and whatever was inside was pretty heavy. I was just going to untie the string and open it when Bruce grabbed it away from me. "No, sir," he said. "Don't do that. We might never catch this critter again." "Aw, come on," I begged him. "What have you got in there anyway? Come on, Brucey. You have to tell us." "Don't have to. Don't aim to," Bruce said. "Just you wait and see." Murray and I pretended we didn't care what he had in his shoebox anyway. I went back to putting the doll's clothes on the owls, and it wasn't easy. Weeps just stood there and whimpered while I pulled a pink dress over his head and pinned a floppy hat on him. But Wool took one look at the sailor suit I had for him, and when he rumpled himself up into a ball and began to clack his beak and hiss, it took 2 of us to hold him down while we got him dressed, and by the time we were finished, he was in a terrible temper. We couldn't trust him to stay quietly on the wagon top after all that fuss, so we decided to tie him to it with some twine around his legs. That made him madder still. While Bruce and I were working on the owls, Murray was trying to paint the stripes on Rex. Rex didn't like it, and there was about as much black paint on Murray as on the dog. Then Murray said he might as well finish what Rex had started, so he smeared black paint all over his own face and said he would just go in the parade as a Zulu Warrior. Just before we were ready to start for downtown, Bruce took his paintbrush and printed some words on the shoebox. Then he tied the box to the top of the second wagon. What he printed was, Surprise pet. Do not feed. We harnessed up the dogs, with Mutt leading because he knew how to pull and harness, and Rex didn't. Rex didn't seem to want to learn either. He kept pulling off to one side, and every time he did it, he almost upset the wagons. We had an awful time getting our outfit all the way downtown, and we were nearly late for the parade, which started at 10 o'clock. One thing, though, by the time we did get there, old Rex was just about worn out, and he had stopped acting like a bucking bronco. The parade formed in front of the Carnegie Public Library, and then it was supposed to go about 6 blocks to the T. Eaton store where the judges' stand was. It seemed like 1,000,000 kids were there with every kind of pet you ever saw. One little boy, about 5 years old, was leading a Clydesdale horse as big as an elephant, and the horse and baby on the blanket it was wearing. If that thing was a baby, I hope to eat it. Think he's going to eat that horse? There was a lot of goats, and it was a hot day, and you could smell goats all over Saskatoon. Some of the girls were wheeling cats along in baby carriages, and the cats were wearing silly hats and were pinned down under lacy covers. Some of them were yowling fit to scare the dead. There were more dogs than you could shake a stick at. Every kind of dog you ever heard about, and lots of kinds that nobody ever heard about. Right in the middle of the parade was a boy leading a pet skunk on a string. He had the middle of the parade all to himself, too. Nobody was crowding him. There were pet rabbits, ducks, chickens, geese, a couple of pigs, and a bunch of pedigree calves. There were even one little boy carrying a quart jar full of water, with a bunch of tadpoles swimming around in it. Can you get a picture of this parade in your head? Would you like to go to a parade like this? You'd expect lots of trouble, what with all the animals and the fact that it was a hot day and everybody was excited and there was so much noise. But there really wasn't much trouble. There were even dog fights, of course. And one dog who wasn't even in the parade at all made a go for a cat in a baby carriage that had stampeded one of the goats. But salesmen from the store were in the parade too, and they got things quieted down, though one of them got bitten on the leg a little bit. It took about an hour for our outfit to get opposite the judges' stand. There were 5 judges, some women, some men. The mayor of Saskatoon was one of them. There were 2 Mounties beside the stand, dressed in their red coats. A lot of parents were jammed up against the stand too, so they could cheer if their kids won a prize. I'd had a good look at the parade by then, and there wasn't an outfit that had a patch on ours. We were sure to win a good prize, and I figured it would be first prize. We had a little trouble, though, when we got to the stand, because Rex was so tired he just lay down and wouldn't get up again. But that only made the judges laugh, and they came down from the stand to take a good look at our entry. I overheard one of the women judges tell another woman that ours was the best rig she had seen. "Isn't it cute the way they decked out, just like a real circus?" The first prize seemed to be right in our pockets. When the president of the T. Eaton store, who was also one of the judges, saw the shoebox on top of the second wagon. "Hello," he said. "Now, here's the good idea. Look at this, Sam. These boys have a special pet in the reserve. That's what I call smart merchandising." Well, of course, everyone crowded around to see what the special pet was. And Bruce, with a silly smile on his dopey face, untied the box and lifted up the lid. Think about all the animals you know that might could fit in a shoebox. What do you think Bruce had in that shoebox? Get a picture in your head. Everyone crowding around, looking in the shoebox. Oh no. What was in the box was a rattlesnake. I guess you can imagine what happened next. All the people shoving and pushing to get away from us got the animal so upset that they began to stampede too. The skunk got crowded into a storefront, and that scared him. And he did what skunks always do when they get scared. There were calves and goats going every which way, and the dogs all went crazy and started chasing anything that ran. And that was everything there was. Our 2 cages got upset and squashed, and all the gophers and white rats were skittering off under people's feet. Wool climbed up on top of my head and kept beating his wings, so I couldn't see too much of what was happening, but I could still hear it. Women were screaming, and one of the Mounties had hauled out his big revolver gun and was waving it in the air, while the other one never stopped blowing his silver whistle. All you could hear was yells and howls and barks and screams and yowls. Yow! I tell you, there has never been anything like it in Saskatoon for 100 years. We didn't stick around any longer than we could help. We saved the wagons, our 2 dogs, the owls, and that darn snake. Bruce grabbed the shoebox the moment the ruckus started and stuck to it like a burr until we got back to my place. Gee, he said, as we were getting a drink from our garden hose, if I'd lost that old snake, I'd have got my britches tanned from here to Mexico. It belongs to our hired man, and it's been his pet for 15 years, ever since he was a cowboy down in Cypress Hills. And it's so old it hasn't any teeth, or any poison either. But he's sure fond of it all the same. It sleeps right with him in his bunk. I still think we should have won first prize. Can you picture all that? Let's look at that scene again closer. There's the Mountie with his gun up in the air. Those women, look how scared they are, screaming. There's a mom pulling her boy away. There's one of the white rats that got away. There's the other Mountie blowing his silver whistle. And what do skunks do when they get scared? They spray their nasty smell. Dogs chasing cats. Kids chasing dogs. That boy's chasing his pet turtle that got away. There's Rex with his zebra painted stripes and a goat in pajamas. And there's the boys with their snake in a box. Nobody knew it was old and didn't have any teeth. There's one of the gophers that got away. All those gophers are loose in town now. Dogs in party hats. A dog with a cat on him, it looks like. The boys with their wagons all torn up. All that work they did in their wagons got smashed by the crazy crowd. Let's read chapter 7 of Owls in the Family. When the owls first came to live with us, Mutt didn't think much of them. He was jealous of all my pets, and he was particularly jealous of the owls because they took up so much of my time. He never did get on very well with Wool, but after a few weeks he got so he could tolerate Weeps. I think this was because Weeps was so helpless, and because Mutt had to defend him from other dogs and from the neighborhood cats. And of course, Weeps got very fond of Mutt, knowing he could depend on the old boy to protect him. Whenever Weeps was let out of his cage, he would start searching around for Mutt. Once he spotted him, Weeps would give a little whoop of relief and go scuttling over to his protector's side. If Mutt was lying down, Weeps would snuggle in between his paws. Sometimes he would get so close that his horn feathers would tickle Mutt's nose, and when Mutt would sneeze and almost blow Weeps over backwards. If Weeps got to be too much of a nuisance, Mutt would try to hide from him under the garage. But that wasn't much use. Weeps would